All right, fade into black. All right, everybody, here we go. GameSpot, Twitter, and Instagram. Hello, we're starting right now. In 5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for December 5th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, reviews are in for the latest JRPG on consoles, and do we already know which game is going to win at the Game Awards? But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa. Jan, how are you doing?
I am still doing incredibly okay.
Yeah, and listen, I think if we aim for okay, it's like you want to have that room above you for the good days, right? When the good days come, it's like,
Totally. That I'll welcome it all in. What I'm doing is this won't make sense. This doesn't make sense, but I'm min-maxing my feelings and my overall well-being that I'm intending on being at the happiest and healthiest when I see all of y'all next.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There you go.
Exactly. It's something to look forward to. It's always good to have something to anticipate, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm definitely at a moment where there's so much in the head that I'm juggling that I don't have time to like consider the self or anything like that. You know what I mean, Jan? You there too? I'm there.
It's like we're a skeleton crew, just like the new Star Wars show, which is okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I have no qualms with it and am enjoying quite a bit of it. It's what I was actually hoping for, which is Star Wars Goonies. Star Wars.
100%.
E.T. basically E.T. but Star Wars, and
yeah,
they got a lot of good freaks in there. I'm enjoying it.
I do enjoy decent levels of pluck. It has an okay amount of it so far. It doesn't feel like it's going to be too much. So
right.
I feel like we're okay.
It's a kids show, but made with like a very different filmic sensibility. I wish it was just a movie though. I definitely could tell already. I'm like, I don't need this to be strung out the way it's already being strung out after the 2-episode premiere. They should have. I mean, I think they originally planned it as a movie. Is this the one done by the Daniels?
No, this is not the one done by the Daniels.
Okay.
I don't even know if that's still in production.
Okay. All right. Maybe they're working on something else. Either I would like to see that happen.
Oh my God! If the Daniels did a Jar Jar show.
The Daniels directed an episode or two. Okay. So this is just like them directing an episode, but this is not their show. Okay. Yeah. I'm happy with it. Definitely glad that it feels like, hey, I didn't have super high expectations, and they're surpassing where I was at, so that's nice. God, Jan, this time next week.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Yeah,
the Game Awards.
The Game Awards. We'll be done with GB at night, and we will be, doing a pre-show for the Game Awards. I suppose we'll be getting set up at this point next week, but looking forward to it. Everybody should tune in to the GameSpot pre-show for the Game Awards. Giant Bomb is helping out. We're gonna do our bit for King and Country, and I'm looking forward to it.
A lot of hard work is being put into all of this, folks. Lucy James, Tamor, Emma, especially Jeff Backlar, the whole gang, even folks and names you don't know, are working very, very hard.
Yep. So when it gets messed up, it's because we didn't work hard enough. Me. That's what it's gonna be.
We're gonna blame Minotti because Minotti hasn't shown up to any of these meetings.
I know. What's his deal? God, such a diva.
Does he work here?
Doesn't seem like it. All right, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with I'm just going to say Fantasian Neo Dimension reviews are out. 82 on Metacritic. I'm sorry, OpenCritic. It's got an 82. I think it's around the same spot on Metacritic. Some reviews came in from Ed Nightingale at Eurogamer, who gave it 4 stars. It says the cult classic mobile RPG finally gets its due for lovers of mechanics over story who can rise to the demands of its extreme challenge. Alana Higgs at Nintendo Life gave it a 7 out of 10, saying, Fantasian Neo Dimension is Hironobu Sakaguchi and Mistwalker at their boldest and bravest, culminating in a JRPG love letter that both delights and frustrates. The stunning world and exploration are a true highlight, and the challenging and rewarding combat will enchant some, but it lacks some of the magic that the game is aiming for, and the pacing is uneven. Normal difficulty makes things more accessible for the curious, but make no mistake, this is an RPG for those who want to lose themselves in the mechanics. And then Lucas White at Shack News gave it a 6 out of 10, seemingly taking issue with some mechanics. Taking the time to farm elemental resistant accessories, equipment upgrades, and stronger skills, setting up your party loadout at a save point, then watching your team get ragdolled anyway, all while you're several levels above what the game says you need, completely overshadows the effort put into the careful puzzle-like design of each boss. Which is a shame, because if those fights weren't so egregiously overtuned in such an unproductive way, the stuff actually holding up Fantasian systems would have really shined. The criticism from before clearly had an impact, but even with the adjustments, there's still moments where this game isn't fun at all to engage with on its given terms. Even with everything else, from Uematsu's thematically apt soundtrack to the super neat diorama visuals, is hard to enjoy when your brain is bogged down by constant dread. Fantasian Neo Dimension has a distinct vibe and a lot of cool ideas, but overcommits to its idea of challenge, such that it buries its own nuances under a pile of big numbers. This is one that, I know a lot of people were looking forward to, finally trying it. You know, it's been out in one form or another as part of a release on Apple Arcade for quite some time. But hey, now it's on the Switch. It's on other consoles. It's here, and it's from, Hironobu Sakaguchi, right? That's, the Final Fantasy guy. I think it also had other stuff going for it, like those diorama visuals. It does the, having actual little plastic sets that the characters are running around on. I think that's visually very interesting. Yes. And honestly, even after reading these reviews, I think this sounds like an interesting game, Jan. I think there's there's stuff going on in it.
I have not checked out this newer release of it. I checked it out originally when it was on Apple Arcade, and I did enjoy my time there. Grubb, I think we're kind of in this space where a lot of JRPGs are kind of attuned to looking to the 2D, 2.5D pixel look, or going towards like a 3D polygonal look. And I do enjoy that this has a distinct diorama look. On top of that, it was interesting how with the battle mechanics, I think it worked very well for a phone because you had to arc your attacks kind of. But if you wanted to just skip all of the battles and save them to the very end, you could do that, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Now in practice, it did get a little bit exhausting at some points because okay, well, this was just a random encounter where I just didn't want to fight this one blob. Now I got to fight a series of five series of one blob encounters. It was still interesting to say the least, especially with the pedigree behind the game. I definitely don't think it is going to be up everyone's alley. I think leaning towards the mechanics and these reviews really highlighting the mechanics heavy side of the game may pull more people in and push a lot of people out. JRPGs, those audiences will skew whether or not you want that heavy duty story that's going to grip you for 50 to 80 hours, or you just want those mechanics of grinding and all that jazz. And I think Fantasian, I almost said Fantasy Asian, Fantasian may do a better job at the latter of mechanics wise.
Yeah, and I think this is a year with a lot of RPGs. People have a lot of choice, and a lot of JRPGs even. Dragon Quest III HD 2D just came out, so I think there's two sides to that. Of people have games to play in this genre if they want something. Things that might even be more refined in some ways, and Dragon Quest 3 still has some of its, I won't call them rough edges, but original edges that came when the game was an NES Famicom game. But there's a lot of other options beyond that as well from earlier this year, and I think that can maybe hurt this game a little bit. But I think there's a chance that's like, actually this genre is just growing. People are happy to have one game, and then they're like, man, I wish there was another one like that. And now here this is waiting for them. So I think there's a chance that this game sort of rides that wave a little bit. And I always root for Sakaguchi as someone who's not like a huge RPG fan.
Yeah.
I always wanted Mistwalker to like really find their footing. And I think again, at the very least, it always feels like they're doing something interesting and at least a little bit different. And I think that's true here as well.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the wave of indie JRPG inspired games to flood the market, where people are kind of like have been influenced by the Persona series and really just want to fine tune elements of that to like their own game or whatever. I feel like there have been a couple indie JRPGs or JRPG focused games that kind of ape the Etrian Odyssey look. And I'm not the biggest fan of that, where you're doing like the first person stuff and you just have the monsters in front of you. I kind of like just seeing the animations play out over and over again.
Sure.
But with this very strong year of RPGs across the board, Grubb, and even last year with Baldur's Gate 3, I am interested to see the wave of inspiration and the other games that are going to come out due to the success of all this.
Absolutely. Yes. I think that it shows that there's ways to do these games in other ways, and that you don't have to be a specific brand name. You can come in and try something new. And yeah, I guess at a certain point, Mistwalker and Sakaguchi, they're the brand name. But yeah, I still think something like this is going to show, hey, there's a lot of space to try new stuff in this genre. And honestly, I hope this filters back up to like Square Enix and inspires them as well.
Yeah.
Man, look at this guy painting one of the dioramas.
So cool.
Isn't it so cool? I love this. I love this stuff. This is the kind of thing where, for audio listeners, we're looking at one of the modelers actually building the diorama set. Again, it's like a little actual physical thing that they filmed as the background, and then they put sprites over on top of it. And I just love that idea. That alone makes me want to play it. And then watching this, artisan actually do the work and hunch over it with a tiny little paintbrush makes me want to play it that much more, because I just love this kind of thing. So very, very cool.
Oh, did you know, Grubb, that Path of the Goddess was also real dioramas?
I didn't know that. Really?
Oh, dang.
Oh, that's interesting.
Gosh, that's another game I got to circle back to.
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. I wish I would have spent more time with it, but I am running out of time for games this year. It's already out of hand. It's out of the box, and I'm behind. So I'm just going to keep playing what I'm playing. All right, let's move along here. Former PlayStation boss questions whether proprietary consoles make sense anymore. This is from Blair Marnell at GameSpot. Although he stepped down from his position as chairman of Sony Interactive Entertainment in 2019, Sean Layden hasn't been shy about sharing his views about the future of the gaming industry. And the former PlayStation boss believes that the ongoing conflict of rival consoles between Sony and Microsoft should come to a close. During an interview with Eurogamer, Layden likens the PlayStation and Xbox competition to the format wars between VHS and Sony's Betamax decades earlier, which was won by the former before both formats became obsolete. With Xbox versus PlayStation, the Ali versus Frazier fight, this is now him in a quote, frankly, we have to start interrogating what the purpose is of a proprietary console and whether that can continue to be true. When you have, I just lost my place. I jumped down a bunch of spots there. Basically, he just goes on to say, like, when you have competing formats, competing platforms, competing technologies, there comes a time when we all declare the war is over, but the real competition will be on its content, and content should be the competition for publishers, not which hardware you get behind. I should be the competition for publishers, I think we're at a point where the consoles become irrelevant in the next. If not the next generation, then the next generation after that, definitely. I mean, I think this is like putting words to a feeling that is already out there. Definitely, whenever we hear executives at these companies talk, it feels like this is what they're saying. I think we look at the moves that companies make, like, PlayStation and certainly Microsoft, where it's like we are acquiring massive games that release on everything. Where they're putting their money tells us they are already moving past this competition.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably going to continue to manifest over the next several years, right?
Yeah, we're even seeing the sentiment with people actively working at the companies, right, Grubb? Like Phil Spencer has said multiple times now that, not explicitly that they're de-emphasizing the Xbox itself, but it is not their primary focus anymore.
Right.
Um, and I think that's where the I don't want to say the fight or the war is going to go into, but I think at this point, a lot of folks have already settled on what their preferred box is. And at this point, the bigger fight will be on who is publishing these games and where these games are coming out to. PC gaming is becoming more accessible. And we we just see like how the PlayStation, the PS5 Pro is just continuing to sell. And it seems even more likely, Grubb, that we will see a future in the near future of Xbox Game Pass coming out on other consoles, which seems absolutely wild.
Yeah, I think part of that is that's clearly what Microsoft wants, but it also just feels like that's where things are moving to a point where the old barriers that were in the way from these content holders or from these platform holders and the first party companies, those things, they're not like completely eroded, but they do feel like they're eroding. They feel like they are like the sort of dogmatic stance of we must protect our walled garden has definitely been like, there's people there that still feel that way, sure, but not everyone feels that way anymore, and there are differing opinions inside of even Sony PlayStation. Maybe they're not inside of Nintendo, but I don't think that he's talking about Nintendo here. So he's definitely talking about Sony and Microsoft, and we already know at Microsoft they fully feel that way. So on inside the platform holders, they're beginning to just like sort of be less sort of very serious about protecting the walled garden, and then at the same time, when they have to answer to investors and investors say, where's the growth coming from, they're forced into a situation where they have to like say, oh, well, yeah, we recognize the console space hasn't grown for us, but don't worry, we're going to do this and this. And they sort of just find themselves saying out of their mouths, we're going to have our games everywhere. So it's just sort of coming to a natural conclusion at a certain point. I think that for people listening to the show, it's what we're used to, right?
Yeah.
What would you say anything to fans that might be feeling a little anxious about this change and whether this could hurt games in the long run, or do you think it's going to help games?
I honestly think it would help games where now it's going to help certain games, Grubb, because it's definitely going to help games like games as a service, multiplayer games where now that audience is even bigger. Cross-platform becomes even more of a thing where you can interact with friends that are playing on completely different types of consoles or even PCs. And that'll be a thing. I think this will not hurt, but this will definitely put a damper on single player games, perhaps, where maybe say you bought into the Xbox ecosystem and maybe Sony isn't as ready to play ball to move games like God of War, Uncharted, The Last of Us onto an Xbox, but they're still completely fine putting it onto PC because that isn't the direct competitor in terms of a console. And also like that launch is delayed a couple months. It normally isn't day and date with the PS5 Pro release. So I think I would feel slightly bad for those folks out there. Now, if you've bought into the PlayStation ecosystem from the get-go, I think you shouldn't face any problems. And it's also funny, Grubb, that you mentioned Nintendo because I feel like Nintendo is a complete outlier in all of these conversations.
Yes, it's a completely different thing. I mean, you become a different thing when you have Pokemon and Mario and Animal Crossing that you can rely on, and Mario Kart on every single one of these consoles. And at a certain point, it becomes just, I think toy might sound like a pejorative, but it's like, no, it's in its own space over here, and it's own experience. And yeah, you don't even think about it, even as much as it clearly is a competitor to these companies. And it does take away some market space for them. They just are doing very, very different things. So yeah, when it comes back to Sony and Microsoft, though, I think that they are just realizing, over the last several years, looking at the trajectory of console pricing and thinking, man, we are getting away with now having a $700 PS5 Pro. It is officially out at that price. And there was a time when we tried to release, the $600 PS3, and that was a real problem. We had to really rethink everything. Okay, so now that price is above that, and people are mostly accepting it. There was definitely some pushback. People do think it's too expensive, but there's a huge chunk of the audience that is showing up for it, and it's selling however well it's selling. That's fine to a certain extent, but is that going to just keep happening? Is the price just going to keep going up? Because it's not. These things are going to get more expensive to make as processors get more complicated. As much as they come down in price, like to make sure that they get enough return on investment for the visual fidelity to make it feel like a real leap. They always have to be on the cutting edge, and there's more and more competition to get in line for those fabs that make these chips. They're going to have to start selling consoles at some point in the future for $1,000. Is the Pro going to be $1,100-$1,200? At a certain point, that number gets just so big on its face that it is the biggest reason why you can't grow the console space, because people who aren't already bought in will not accept a price that high for yet another consumer electronics device when they're already spending that much on a smartphone, and then the next thing on the list probably is a PC before it's going to be something like that, because they can use that as a utility. So sure. I just think these companies are recognizing we need to not tie our fate to the console, even when we are in a strong position like PlayStation, right?
I think I think as soon as these companies untangle themselves from the console problem that Layden has kind of highlighted here, I fear, Grubb, that we may be headed towards a future where the PS5 Pro or the mid-cycle relaunch of a console is no longer 4 years down the road, but now is an annual release, right?
Yeah.
Much like the new iPhone, the new iPad, the 2025 MacBook, right? Where there are incremental changes that may not be useful for everyone, but for those people that are kind of on the cult of personality in terms of they want to be on the latest and greatest technology, Sony or Microsoft knows that they can get those people on the line, and it becomes the newest boutique electronic item, right?
Yep.
And there is that audience that is looking for that does buy the newest iPhone every single year, that will upgrade their iPad every single year. And maybe PlayStation, Xbox has been looking at that, definitely has been looking at that, and wants a piece of that pie.
Yep, I think so. And it's, a lot of people are interested in video games. It's just, the next generation has found ways to get outside of the console ecosystem. And while they recognize that as an option, and many of them enjoy coming into that space, if the consoles disappeared, they would keep playing games in a number of different ways, including their smartphones and tablets and PC. And, I think it would be a much bigger shock to someone like me. But that's the future. If the growth comes from the people who are going to have more money as their careers get started, and they have a different idea of what video games can look like. Sure. So you kind of have to begin shifting now to get out ahead of that. That seems like what Microsoft's been doing for years now. Whether how successful it is still yet to be determined. I think there's definitely been some missteps there, but that's what they're trying to do. And now Sony's like, oh yeah, God, we got to be doing the same. And I think that inevitably leads to a situation where the consoles don't go away, but they're de-emphasized, and that's what it feels like is happening right now. Last thing on this. We've talked about the end of consoles many times before in history. Mm-hmm. I think the last time it was kind of really being talked about was 2011, 2012, leading into the launch of the Xbox One and the PS4. And then both those things did very well, especially the PS4, but the Xbox One also did really well. And that proved us wrong. And it's oh man, yeah, we were mobile gaming grew, but it became another option. So listen, there's always a chance a couple years from now we look back and it's like, oh, okay, so yeah, sure. All the evidence at the time said that these things were going to be de-emphasized. But look at this. They figured out consoles. I suppose that could happen. It's just hard to see that path right now. That's all.
Yeah, just where I see like lifestyles are headed, Grubb, where adding another device to someone's life may be a little bit difficult to negotiate.
Yep.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe we're gonna see Uncharted turn into like a temple run.
Listen, without a doubt. That's what we really need. A Subway Surfers Uncharted. Put that half tuck shirt in that game right now.
Oh, please. Subway Surfers Kratos. Come on.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come right back, we're going to talk about that Kingmakers game, the one with the guy at the truck and the medieval times and a gun. It's coming out soon. We'll talk about that right after this. Wake up, Jan. We got more news.
Oh.
Kingmakers launches in early access in Q1 2025. This is a quick one from Sal Romano at Gamatsu. Medieval third-person shooter / strategy game Kingmakers will launch in early access for PC via Steam in Q1 2025. Publisher Tiny Build and developer Redemption Road Games announced. The game has achieved more than 1 million wish lists on Steam. This is the one, I think it was at Summer Game Fest, where we saw the trailer and it was a guy in a truck, like a pickup truck, driving around a bunch of medieval chuckleheads on horses with spears and swords and armor, and he had a machine gun and he was shooting them all. And that is a video game, and I've been looking forward to that one for a very long time. And I was kind of hoping, you know, it would follow like the Keeley arc here, and it would like get announced at one of his shows previously, and then land here at the Game Awards as a shadow drop. Like that would have been awesome. We go home and play that thing right away. I'll accept Q1 2025 early access, though. That sounds like a good time. This feels like a game that could take over the world in a lot of ways, right?
Grubb, it is a fool's errand for me to keep coming up with questions in my head of like, well, how would they do this? Why is this real? Well, how is he concerned? How is he? What if he runs out of ammo? Is he going to make new ammo? And then I'm thinking about from the knight's perspective of like, how terrifying is this that you're already in war?
Like maybe there's like a little portal in the back of the pickup truck that transports more ammo from the future, right? Like that. It's just like he hits a button.
Oh, sure.
And his Ziggy in the future, his Quantum Leap Ziggy, is like, okay, here's some more ammo. And like, there's not enough energy to like send him back, or maybe he's like doing an important job. There was too many knights in armor, and he's like got to go call the herd like deer.
It looks like because I'm rewatching the trailer here, he warps back to the future, and then a cat spaceship robot is dumping money at him.
I mean, yeah, perfect.
Yeah, 100%. This may also be co-op, Grubb. So.
Yeah, it's got to be, right? It's like, this is the kind of game that if it has 4-player co-op, I think it'll be a massive hit on Twitch. Also, the way this trailer does begin, and it looks like a Total War game, and like there's even like, and the pickup truck just comes out of nowhere and starts running over all these guys. That is, God, I love video games. He just gets out with a handgun. Man,
this is good. Yep. This is good. Games are good, huh?
Yeah, games can be really, really good. So looking forward to that Q1 2025. Come Deliverance 2 release date has been moved forward amidst a crowded release schedule. This is from George Yang at GameSpot. Warhorse Studios has announced that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's release date has been moved forward to February 4th, 2025. Additionally, a new story trailer will drop today, December 5th, as well as the PC and console version details. In a new update video, public relations manager Toby Stolz-Zweiling revealed the new release date and that the new story trailer will premiere on it's the PC gaming shows today. That's right, they're doing their thing. They try to do that around the Game Awards. This is one of these games that's like, oh yeah, that's also coming out in February, a month jam-packed with games. We'll talk about like what's all coming in February here in a second. But I don't know. This one was always kind of like on the bubble for me. I definitely got weirdness from the developers during the first game. Not so much weirdness that I would never check out another one of their games or anything like that. I don't blame anyone who does, and I don't blame anyone who thinks I'm be overreacting, whatever, feel how you want to feel. But I was like, okay, hey, listen, I'm willing to give you another chance, especially if you like, because I criticized the first game. I think there's a chance they could have listened to that criticism and made this game even better. And I want to see for myself. But it's also like down on a list of like, I'm going to play that after Monster Hunter Wilds, of course, and other things coming out that month. How about for you?
Same exact boat, Grubb. It felt like there was a lot of weird funk around the original game, and the people that got very, very weird about it kind of rode way too hard for the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it did feel like the developers were like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! Y'all need to calm down over there." But the people that weren't very weird about the game did actually enjoy it, and I would hope that the developers took into consideration the people that were being very weird on the internet and the people that had legitimate qualms with the game. But oh boy, Grub, I just see the games that are highlighted here for February release, and I would do any and everything to get out of the way of all of those.
Yes. So, Warhorse Studios presumably moved the release date forward in order to avoid February 2025's other big releases. These include Assassin's Creed Shadows on February 14th, Avowed on February 18th, and Monster Hunter Wilds on February 28th. And that, honestly, that's just like the three big ones. There's others that are like on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's level, I think, already as well. So, yeah, it's a month where people are going to be playing a lot of games, be very busy, and yeah, I think this one has a chance to do like it's right in that genre of perennial PC hit on Steam, right? Where hey, this is sort of like a Skyrim, and it's got a modding scene, and I like just getting lost in these adventures. And then I'll keep playing it because I'll mod it and do all kinds of crazy stuff to it. That kind of game can do well at any point, but moving it up a little bit, getting out of the way of some of these games, it's going to help, right? Do you think it's going to do enough?
I think it'll have its dedicated audience. I just don't know how much new excitement it's going to be able to garner given this heavy competition. Because I also feel bad for Assassin's Creed Shadows, Grub. Because I just think about Ubisoft and like the current situation. We chatted about it yesterday, but Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be a juggernaut.
I mean,
that
and like
that window,
and like the sort of sentiment, earned or not, fair or not, around Assassin's Creed Shadows, and then the exact opposite sentiment for something like Yakuza, a Yakuza pirate in Hawaii or whatever it's called. Yeah, like that's like people adore that, and they want to. And it's got a growing audience of people who adore it, and it's like okay. Well, I think a lot of the positive sentiment could be around that versus something like Assassin's Creed Shadows. Civilization 7 also coming out in February. We got a story about that here in a little bit. It's just going to be a very, very busy month. I don't think that means this game has no chance. It definitely does. And I think moving up is a good idea. Get out ahead of all these before everyone else is playing something else.
If it's in a position to be able to be moved forward, then by all means do it so you can get out of the way or try and build some hype before any of these games obliterate people's lives. Unless like the thing I fear about when a game does get moved forward is it necessarily ready to be released? Has it passed whatever certs that it needs to be done, or is it going to launch in such a state that it hampers public perception of the game?
It also always makes me wonder, like, how'd the first date get chosen in the first place? I honestly, I wish we had more insight into all of the various ways that these companies do make decisions about when something will come out or not. And it's okay. So then, what were the pressures that made you change it? Was it just these games coming out? I'm sure it was. But it's like, okay, so what? Do you lose anything? Like, are you missing out on the optimal window? Do you feel better about the middle of the month because that's when more people have money or something like that? I don't know, but hey, the game's got to get done to come out, and now they got to get done a week earlier. It's not impossible. Obviously, they feel like they're not the only game that did this. I think was it Assassin's Creed Shadows? Something else did move from later in the month to earlier in the month. So other games are already doing this because they're worried about February, even bigger games than this.
I think that was Like a Dragon.
Yeah, Like a Dragon. That sounds right. It was Like a Dragon. Thank you. All right, let's get to the next story here. Evercade manufacturer announces partnership with SNK. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Evercade manufacturer Blaze Entertainment has announced a new partnership with the SNK Corporation The deal will see Blaze releasing officially licensed products from the history of the Neo Geo video gaming system in 2025 and 2026. Although Blaze's announcement doesn't directly specify that this means Neo Geo games will arrive on Evercade products, it did release a short teaser video showing the Neo Geo startup sequence with an Evercade logo included. The Evercade line of products consists of handhelds, consoles, and arcade cabinets, which specialize in playing retro games. Mike and Tam just got those countertop arcade ones from Evercade. Mike got the Mega Man one. Tam got the Street Fighter one. They both seem pretty happy with it. I think these things are cool. And God, I like the Neo Geo. I think Neo Geo games are real cool. So this is neat to me. And I'm glad that this space of bespoke, hardware, boutique hardware can continue to exist and do new things. When it's like, oh, did everyone just get the NES Mini and that's all they're going to do? It's like, no, there's a market for all this stuff way deeper than that, including an Evercade machine with Neo Geo stuff on it.
Grubb, the market that these Evercade machines really appeal to? People building sets for for podcasts, for shows.
They're very handsome.
These are great looking machines to take up a good chunk of space. The idle animations, or like the attract screens,
attract
are
mode,
great
yeah,
to just have on in the background. Oh boy.
Yep. And just seeing this, the SNK, the Neo Geo boot up thing of the Max 330 Mega Pro Gear spec, makes me feel a certain way. So I would love to have this playing in the background of a video for sure. I think that'd be very cool.
Nikki, you ask if you can have one, but do you actually want one?
Yeah. Man, the Neo Geo was a thing that I never saw as a kid, only ever read about. And then when you read about it, you're like, oh, this is why I've never seen one. They're, $800 and all the games are super expensive. It was just, it was this mythical thing. And eventually, you move past it, you get into 3D games. And then you find out they're still making like Neo Geo and arcade SNK Neo Geo games that are still based on that same technology like years later. And it's like, oh man, okay, there's just this whole other world that SNK lives in. And they're not going to upgrade their specs all that much. But yeah, it was a weird thing. I wish I would have had one at the time, but now I'm making up for it. I'll just go buy some retro stuff and put it on emulators. All right, Foamstars next season will be its last. This is from Square Enix, or I'm sorry, Square Enix has announced that. This is Chris Scullion at VGC again. The next season of Square Enix's free-to-play game Foamstars will be its last. In a message posted on its official website, Square Enix has confirmed that the Party Goes On season, that's the proper noun, Party Goes On, which starts on December 13th and lasts until January 17th, 2025, will be the final new season of content. The game will continue to run, however, with Square Enix making the previous seasons available again for players to work through if they missed them before. In this concluding update, expansions will be introduced to enhance gameplay, such as the ability to customize shots of each character and new enhancement elements such as prism gems, all aimed at ensuring players can continue to enjoy the game for the foreseeable future. So, not going offline, but kind of maybe doing the Animal Crossing thing where it's like, we're just going to run through these seasons going forward in rotation over and over to kind of keep things feeling fresh for people who kind of just show up. I've still never played Foamstars.
Grubb.
I know, it's all my fault.
You.
I know, I'm so sorry, Jan, to do this to you.
It's okay. I only ever played this at Summer Game Fest. I enjoyed the time I had with it. I think it's interesting, Grubb, how this kind of never found its footing in one of building a popular audience, because Splatoon, freakishly popular, right?
Yes, massively popular.
It is locked down to the Switch. Foamstars, you're on PC, you're on the PlayStation, you have a greater reach, right? I'm also surprised that this never wound up striking a chord with the people that become very obsessive with the with any type of video game character that is maybe be perceived as attractive. And it's a bummer, but at the same time, it just never felt like Square was 100% getting behind this.
No.
I'm gonna miss. Well, I guess it's still gonna be around, so I can still go to Bath Vegas, but maybe we should get the gang together and foam up.
I would foam up. I would definitely rock a foam party with y'all in Foamstars. Yeah, it's gonna keep operating. But maybe we could play during this final new season. The party goes on. Apparently, the party does not go on though. And apparently, it's gonna end. Yeah, I never had anything against Foamstars. It's just one of those ones where it's like, yeah, I don't have time for that. At the time it came out, maybe we'll circle back around if it blows up, and it didn't quite blow up. But it is definitely interesting that it has lasted for infinitely longer than Concord, right? It's like, man, it's hard to place these bets. You know, not this. Maybe not they had an equal or a similar amount of engagement. I bet this had more engagement than Concord. It must have. But you know, this is still one that they kept going, and it will have a history when we look back. Like, yeah, Foamstars came out. It was a multiplayer game. People played it online for a while, and then it went away. Sure. And again, it's not going away yet, so we'll see.
Correction, it never came out on PC.
Never came out on PC, really?
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's one of the reasons I didn't play it. Yeah.
Also, apparently there are near skins in Foamstars. So
There's near skins in everything. All right. There was near skins in my Cheerios this morning. They put that stuff in everything. It's crazy.
Yoko Taro, get out of here.
Yoko Taro, do your thing, man. You get paid. I have no problem with that. All right, we're moving on to this next story. Firaxis hadn't expected Civilization 6's success on Switch. This is from Alana Heggs at Nintendo Life. Civilization 7 is just a few months away from launch. We still have to pinch ourselves when saying that. And as you might expect, the success of Civilization 6 on Switch has influenced a few of the design decisions for that game. What you might not expect, however, is that Firaxis didn't expect just how successful the game would be on the hybrid console. Speaking to Christopher Dring over at GamesIndustry.biz, shout out to Dring, executive producer Dennis Shirk noticed that PC players, their core player base, were double dipping. We found that a lot of our PC players were getting the game on Switch because they could take their game with them. One of the chief concerns with the Switch version was the handheld aspect. We were like, are people going to play it for that long on a handheld? And the answer was yes. Yes, they will. Because of the port's success, Firaxis has implemented a save transfer system for Civ 7, meaning that players who pick the game up on Switch and another console can easily take their campaign anywhere with them. Firaxis is working with Behavior Interactive, who has worked on various Disney games over the years, as well as the interactive adventure Silent Hill Ascension, and most famously Dead by Daylight, to bring Civilization 7 to the Switch. And because of the simultaneous launch, the team has had to change its approach to development. For the first time, every single asset we've been creating a LODS level of detail by the shovelful because we need multiple levels of LODS for something like that to work on Switch. Yeah, my understanding is Civ 6 was a really huge hit on the Switch to the point where it's one of those games that Nintendo often always features on the eShop, especially if there's a sale for it. Because I think once that thing gets down to like $15, people just swarm to it on the Switch. And I did get it on the Switch and played, I think, one playthrough, and it worked really well. It's not a bad port. It turns out, I was part of it was like, I think they learned a lot from Civilization Revolution that I played a ton of on Xbox 360 and then on the DS, and I love that. And it's like, oh yeah, this game can clearly just work on console, and it has, even on the Switch. And so that has led them to, hey, this game, Switch 7 coming out, or Civilization 7 is coming out, and it's going to launch on the Switch at the same time as PC, which is very strange to me still.
It turns out, Grubb, a lot of people like playing games on the Switch specifically. It's funny that you highlighted people playing on PC will transfer their save to the Switch.
Yes.
In my head, maybe that's just because of the bubble we live in. Like, well, it's Steam Deck, dog. But I get, not everyone has a Steam Deck.
Man, Dring is leaving GamesIndustry.biz. He announced that just a little bit ago, 10 minutes ago. A small piece of news, I'm leaving GamesIndustry.biz at the end of the month. It's been quite the 8-year journey. I love the industry. I love business media. And I will be back in 2025, although what that looks like is to be worked out. I guess James Batchelor is also leaving GamesIndustry.biz. Maybe they're going to start their own thing. I hope they do. Love Dring. Love James Batchelor. Very good boys. Dring was in line for the Nintendo pop-up shop at PAX And I was like, man, I would love to get a sweater. He's like, yeah, I'll just get it for you and pay me back later. And he got the sweater, and it's nice, very nice.
Shouts out to Drink.
Yep.
Very nice, gent.
Good boys. All right, final thing here. I thought this was fun. VGC did this kind of took all the Game Awards nominees and was like, here's who would win each category if Metacritic determined who would win. And I kind of want to just see how we feel about it. So this comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. He's we'll hop into it here. The Game Awards 2024 winners, if they were decided by Metacritic. We'll work our way up. Let's see. Best adaptation would be Arcane, which is a TV show. Yeah, right. Probably. I know that second season people aren't a huge fan of it, but I bet it still has a good chance of winning. Best art direction, Astrobot.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's like the highest Metacritic of any game this year, I think, actually. So if it's nominated in a category, it would automatically win this way. I think this is one where it's like, I bet it doesn't win art direction.
Nah.
Right? That's probably metaphor or something like that.
I'd have to pull up the other nominees to confer, but yeah.
Best narrative would be Metaphor Refantasio.
Okay. I'll take that.
I think so. I think there's a strong chance for that. Best VR, Asgard's Wrath 2. Best mobile game, Balatro.
I was going to say that Batman Arkham game, Grubb, is very good.
Yes.
I checked it out.
It's got to be nominated. So, yes, I think while Asgard's Wrath 2 got a few 10s, IGN gave it a 10, I bet Batman, recency bias, and it being probably just as good as Asgard's Wrath 2, all things considered, that probably puts it over the top. Balatro for best mobile game, I think that's a lock. For the kinds of people who are voting, I think it's a lock. By the way, have we voted? Is there a final vote? I don't remember. So best sports, best multiplayer game, Tekken 8. Yeah, that sounds right. Best sports / racing game, WWE 2K24.
I think one of those football games might take over that category.
Yeah, maybe. College football probably wins that one. Best sim / strategy game, Unicorn Overlord.
Again, I forget what else is in that category, but sure.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility. Yes. Best family game, Astrobot. I think that's possible. Yeah, because I think the other the Nintendo. This is the Nintendo category, and I think the Nintendo games nominated are weak. Maybe like was Super Mario Party Jamboree nominated? Maybe that has a chance. But I bet Astrobot gets that. Best fighting game, Tekken 8. I mean, yeah, sure. Yep. Best RPG, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree.
No, you can't, Grubb. I have no qualms with DLC being nominated, but not in this category.
Yeah, and I think it. I don't think it's going to win this category.
No.
In Elden Ring, definitely an RPG. You got a character sheet and all that stuff. But it's also an action adventure, as Avin Varese points out in chats. There's definitely some fudginess there. But I think there's so many other RPGs that actually will just when people say, "Hey, what's the best RPG?" Elden Ring's not coming up on that list this year. Very in the first couple of answers, in the first 3 or 4 answers. So
it is like the last thing I'm thinking of in terms of RPGs for this year, especially.
Man, Shadow of the Erd Tree, very good though. Best action / adventure game, Astrobot.
I feel like you, Dan, and Minotti are completely fine with this projected outcome, Grubb.
I feel good about that. Yes. Best action game, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I think there's a chance it wins that. Yeah.
It could.
Yeah.
It could. Yeah.
Again, I think it seems to be doing very well with the kinds of people who vote in this sort of thing. Best debut indie game, Balatro. That's a lock.
Hands down.
Yes. Yeah. Best independent game, UFO 50.
Sure.
I don't think Balatro must not be nominated there because I think Balatro's got a higher.
It would have been a lock, yeah.
Yeah, higher Metacritic than that. And then game of the year, Astrobot. I think so. I think it's probably the favorite, but I don't think it's a lock. I think Balatro's going to win Game of the Year. I think so.
Yo, I am so ready for it, Grubb. I'm so ready for it.
Because I think a lot of these other big games might cannibalize it a little bit, and there's going to be a Balatro block that will show up for it real hard. But we'll see.
I 100% think so, and it's just so wild to me, Grubb, that Balatro has taken over the world after playing the demo of it earlier this year.
Yeah, I remember you playing the demo and bringing it up on the Bombcast. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go get this right now, and then immediately be like, oh yeah, this is gonna take over everything.
If Balatro wins, I hope that Keeley just drops a bunch of cards from the sky.
Yeah. Just start pelting people with full decks of cards. Yeah, that'd be great. Game Awards is next week. It's half about the winners, not even that much about the winners. It'll be about new games. There'll be a lot of fun stuff to talk about. We'll do that on our shows later. We'll have our pre-show that we're helping out GameSpot with. We'll have GB at night, the day before that, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Tune in for all that stuff. But that time of year. Look out for our Game of the Year stuff later this month. All right. That does it for the headlines. Let's get over to the poll question, which I have right here. And let me refresh this and then vote myself. Did you play X-Defiant? I did. I did play X-Defiant. And I am one of 16% of respondents. 84% said no, they did not try X-Defiant. Did you ever get around to trying X-Defiant, Jan?
No.
I think it's the biggest thing with this game. It was such an easy one to be like, it's just a Ubisoft's Call of Duty. I don't need to play that. And it's just so easy to skip. And if you can't even get people to try your game when it's free, that's such an uphill battle. And I think that's kind of what X-Defiant faced from the beginning. And Solid Snake US says Ubisoft refusing to put it on Steam also did not help. Yeah, that's very true. They've explicitly stated they are reversing that position once again. And these companies go back and forth. But most recently, after Star Wars, they're like, "Hey, all our games coming out on Steam again. Don't worry. We're sorry." So maybe this game would have had a much different chance had it launched on there. I think it would have been much better off had they launched it on Steam from the get-go.
What does Ubisoft have to gain to keeping people on their launcher?
I mean, they just get a better cut, right? I think that's all. And it's and while I appreciate that, there's a value to being able to build an audience that wants to buy games on your platform, and it's probably worth about 30%. It's probably worth that much. I know a lot of developers who used to sell games before Steam on PC, and they still sell games now, but they do it on Steam, and they're like, the amount of work we had to do to sell a game to people was insane. All that stuff, the customer support, all these different things that Steam just takes care of for you is easily worth that amount of money. It's easily worth that. The profit margins are much better, but a lot of people don't look at it that way. And huge corporations are not. They're like, no, that's 30%. We sell it ourselves, we get the whole thing. But yeah. All right, we got a new poll question coming at you here in a second. While we get that prepped and ready, Jan Ochoa, let's go over everything one more time. What we got going on next week, all that stuff.
For the rest of this week, Grubb, later today, we will have an episode of the Voicemail Dump Truck. Tomorrow, another episode of Game S Mornings. And fingers crossed, we will have another episode of Blake Club where Lucy will don the Kong suit. Next week is going to be a little funky, folks. Grubb, Game Mess on Monday?
Game Mess on Monday. Emma definitely asked if I wanted to do a Game Mess from the studio later in the week. And I'm like, kinda, but I think that'd be too insane. So probably not, everybody. It would be fun. There's days where we easily could do it, especially Friday. There's a late start with other stuff that day, so maybe we'll commit to a Monday and a Friday, and in between that, who knows? But Friday we'll have to get some stuff set up anyhow, so maybe we'll just do that as a test run and do it live. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. No promises.
We're gonna try and pre-record a bombcast, so you don't miss it on Tuesday. But then Wednesday, Grubb, Giant Bomb at night. 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We have brought the couch down yet again. We have filled it up. A bunch of fun segments lined up for y'all. Shenanigans abound,
Yep.
I just hope y'all will remember me.
Yep. I hope you will remember me too. I think that this year's gone sideways for video games in a lot of way, and I think when we go into GB at night, I think there's some things we can do to satiate the gods that have undone us in a lot of ways. So tune in,
Yeah.
and see. So we're gonna make it happen for y'all.
Yeah, the industry is just like erupting all over the place, Grubb, and I feel like we just need to calm it down and just like and just gather together and do that.
Gotta just something blood red and just sacrifice it and get these demons off our back. So tune in for GB at night, everybody.
And then the following day, Grubb, we will be a part of the GameSpot pre-show, the countdown to the Game Awards. A lot of fun segments there as well, planned out. Sandwiches, maybe, perhaps.
Yeah.
Trivia, perhaps. Interviews, perhaps.
And then a talk over. From locations unknown. It'll be a good time though. I'm looking forward to that. All right, new poll question: do you own some kind of home arcade machine, an arcade one-up, Evercade, etc., or a shoot arcade cabinet? Yes or no? You can vote on that. We'll get the results on Game S mornings here on Giant Bomb tomorrow. All right. Anything else, Jan, that we should get to before we wrap up?
I believe that is it, folks. It's going to be a hectic week next week, but please stick with us. It'll be fun nonetheless.
Yep, we'll have a good time. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for listening and watching. Jan Ochoa, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games. I appreciate that.
It's the only way to start a Thursday.
You're the best audience in gaming, everybody. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself. And I'm Jeff Grubb, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I got so many things I got to turn off now.